You wake up one day and groggily rub the sleep out of your eyes. After a few moments, you're alert enough to reach for your phone. Time to catch up on all the messages and Instagram likes and Facebook posts you missed during your sleep. Except your phone's not working. You have no service, and that should be impossible because you recently ditched T-Mobile. Shrugging, you reach for your laptop and flip it open, double-clicking on Firefox because Safari and Chrome are trash browsers. Oddly, Firefox refuses to load. You check your laptop's connectivity and sure enough, no service again. Weird, you think to yourself as you throw on some pants and check on your desktop, which also has no internet connection. Now, edging to a full-blown first-world panic, you head downstairs to make sure Mom paid the internet bill. You find her there in the kitchen aimlessly mixing something. You can't quite tell what it is because she has her back turned to you, but you think you hear her slightly groaning? Hesitantly, you call out to your mother, whose body suddenly jerks as she turns around slowly, moving very, very stiffly. As she turns to face you, you're horrified to see her dead eyes staring at you, and with a growl of brains, she leaps for you. You make a run for it, rushing outside and fleeing for your life, but the neighbors spot you and take off running after you too. In seconds, you're being chased by a mob of zombified relatives and neighbors, and they're almost upon you when you turn the corner and suddenly hear, "Get down!" Instinctively, you duck down, and in front of you, a military patrol in Humvees opens up 50 caliber machine guns, chewing the zombies to pieces. Overhead, you hear the roar of jets as 500-pound bombs are being dropped all over your former suburban neighborhood. Welcome to the zombie apocalypse. The previous scenario has been a staple of science fiction for decades, and stories of zombie apocalypses have thrilled and terrified generations of humanity. Yet for the United States military, the zombie apocalypse is no laughing matter, and they have a plan to stop it dead in its tracks. Pun fully intended. Contingency Plan 8888. The United States military regularly creates think tanks whose jobs are to envision future conflict or disaster scenarios, and then draw up military and civil responses to address these threats. Throughout the years, American war planners have created plans for everything, from nuclear war with the Soviet Union to an enemy invasion of the U.S. mainland to responding to a massive asteroid or comet strike on planet Earth. Incredibly, the U.S. military also has several contingency plans to combat an alien invasion, and that's no joke. These plans are highly secretive, as are the other contingency plans, and present military options to combat a variety of different alien invasion scenarios, at least to the best as our limited technology allows. Yet one of these contingency plans is unclassified and has been public knowledge for years. That's Contingency Plan 8888. Originally, Conplan 8888 was developed as a teaching tool for American military planners. It was meant to be a fun exercise that introduced new war planners to the complexities of developing realistic response plans to a variety of contingencies. Because of the threat of war plans being made public, the instructors behind the original Conplan 8888 exercises wanted to use a completely fictional scenario, rather than using realistic scenarios with real nations that could be misconstrued in the public eye as an actual war plan. Because the US military actually has realistic contingency plans to counter an alien invasion, it was decided that zombies presented the best option for developing a practice war plan to allow students to learn the ins and outs of military planning. However, just because Conplan 8888 was developed as a teaching exercise and not taken very seriously does not mean that it's a credible and fully functional plan. If zombies ever did kick off an apocalypse, Conplan 8888 would be there to save the US from extinction. So what does Conplan 8888 involve? First, the plan addresses the threats from a variety of different types of zombies. First is the PZ, or pathogenic zombies. These are zombies who are created after a host is infected by a virus, bacteria, or other form of contagion. Next are RZs, or radiation zombies. These are zombies created by extreme exposure to electromagnetic and or particle radiation. EMZs are evil magic zombies, or zombies created by an evil occult force. SZs, or space zombies, are zombie life forms that originate from outer space, or created by the toxic contamination of the Earth's environment by an extraterrestrial source. WZs, or weaponized zombies, are zombies that have been developed in a lab somewhere to be used as military weapon, perhaps deployed by a foreign adversary. SIZs are symbiont-induced zombies, or zombies who are created by the introduction of a symbiont life form into a healthy host. The symbiont keeps the host alive, but acting as its personal puppet. VZs, or vegetarian zombies, are zombies who do not feed on flesh, human or otherwise. but rather who feed on plant life, such as zombies from the Plants vs. Zombies series of video games. These zombies pose just as great a threat to humanity due to their appetite for vegetation, which can cause massive deforestation and the destruction of food crops. Lastly, the plan addressed the threat posed by CZs, or chicken zombies, which are the only type of zombie that actually exist. These zombies are produced when chickens are improperly euthanized with carbon monoxide and left in a pile of bodies, only for the still living chicken to crawl its way out of the pile and walk around until organ failure kills it. Next, the plan moves on to discuss the effect of environment on both zombies and surviving human population. It notes that pathogenic zombies will be vulnerable to ultraviolet light thanks to the UV light's ability to impair the function of RNA, which comprises most viral life forms. Thanks to this sensitivity, pathogenic zombies are not expected to be active during noon or in bright sunny conditions, and will likely be active at night. Evil magic zombies, space zombies, vegetarian zombies, and weaponized zombies are believed to be immune to any extreme meteorological phenomenon except for fires, floods, tornadoes, or tsunamis. For human survivors, the plan stresses the need for rainwater conservation, seeing as most public services will no longer be working. Also, groundwater or stream and river water is not recommended for drinking, as it will be unknown if it will be a vector for zombie infection. Humans who don't shelter in place in locations that protect from direct effect of air currents also run the risk of zombie infection if pathogen or zombification source is airborne. From here, the plan moves on to 5 phases of a response to a zombie outbreak. Upon news of the dead rising from their graves, or evil wizards creating zombie hordes, the U.S. military will initiate Phase 0 of Conplan 8888. The phase is also called Shape the Environment, and will focus on giving U.S. warfighters as great warning time and strategic advantage against the zombie hordes as possible. Military and civil agencies will monitor disease vectors for possible zombification, identifying any ways that infection can spread, and taking precautionary measures. With constant monitoring, the U.S. military will be ready once the outbreak reaches critical levels, or is unleashed in full inside North America. All military forces will engage in renewed hazmat training as well as nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare training, already a routine part of U.S. military training. Phase 1, Deterrence, will begin upon receipt of a warn order or a warning order by U.S. Strategic Command. In a normal war plan, this phase of planning involves displays of military power, so that foreign adversaries are deterred from hostile action. Because zombies cannot be reasoned with or intimidated, however, other forces which could further spread a zombie plague or aid in a zombie apocalypse, such as terrorist groups, adversary nations, and unethical bioresearch companies, are targeted instead. Phase 1 will see the U.S. military initiate large-scale training meant to show any would-be human collaborators that the U.S. military can still operate within a toxic and contaminated environment, hopefully deterring evil bioresearch companies or terrorists from aiding the zombie apocalypse. Phase 2, Seize the Initiative, will begin upon receipt of an alert order by U.S. Strategic Command. This will immediately initiate a complete recall of all military and reserve personnel, and the immediate implementation of all continuity of operations plans, or co-op plans as they're known, are meant to ensure that no matter what happens, all of the major military commands are able to continue functioning as well as the civilian government. The plan will deploy all ground, naval, and airborne command and control nodes, with preparations to remain deployed for at minimum 35 days. This will ensure that the U.S. military remains in control of its forces no matter what happens next. U.S. Strategic Command will reach out to potential adversary nations, such as Russia and China, and inform them of preparation for counter-zombie operations, conducting confidence-building measures to ensure these nations don't believe the mobilization is using the zombie threat as a cover for military action against their own countries. The U.S. Air Force's Global Strike Command, in conjunction with assets from other services, will immediately generate forces for strike missions against zombie horde concentrations, not just here in the U.S., but abroad. The rest of the U.S. military will immediately begin fortifying civilian defense zones and enforcing quarantines where applicable. Phase 3, Dominance, will initiate a massive American military response against the zombie threat. Combat operations must be swift and completely eradicate zombie concentrations, as even a lone survivor can reignite a zombie outbreak. Cities and other major population centers may need to be indefinitely blockaded by military forces while the civilians are relocated to more remote areas. Phase 4, Stabilization, will begin no earlier than at least 40 days after the initiation of Phase 3 operations. U.S. military forces will begin initiating local reconnaissance operations in order to determine the strength of surviving zombie forces. They'll also locate isolated pockets of survivors and shepherd them